Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you're new to me, it's the first time you're seeing my face, hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So I hope that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening today. If you are not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have my October wrap up. Yes, it is that time of the month again, where I get to look back over everything that I read and be reminded of everything that I didn't read. Yay. But we have got quite a bit to talk about this month. So without further ado, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay, so let's get right out. The books I did not complete from my October TBR, which I will link down in the down box below, so you can go check that out if you like, was Helen Hart's Unchained, the Blood Bond Saga 1. I also did not touch Dark Things I Adore by Katie Latari, and I did not complete, is anybody surprised, my Buzzword Challenge book of reading a book that had an animal in the title. And this is also my husband's challenge of reading a horror novel. I just never got to this one. The month got away from me at the end. It just, poof, it was done. It was gone. However, I do have two books that I am still in the process of working on. So they are being carried over into November. And the first one is Rebellion by Siobhan Davis. This is currently an audiobook that I am working on, and I am struggling, people. I'm struggling, but I'm going to get through it. So I'm still working on that one. And at the very end of the month, I did start Tower of Dawn, which I am doing a vlog on. So you will be seeing that in the next coming week. So look for it. But this is what I'm currently working on right now. So, but what I did complete, however, looks a little something like this. Yep, I completed 13 books this month. 13. And as you can see, they are all time-stamped. So if there's a book up here that interests you or you want to go check out, you can go to the down box below. Everything will be hyperlinked to that timestamp, or you can sit with me for the entirety of the video and just sit and chat with me about some books that I read this month. Either way is fine with me. I hope you'll stick with me for the entirety, because I do go into some detail about these books, but not into great detail, as I do have a weekly wrap-up series, and I will link the series playlist up here in the corner, where I go into great detail, likes, dislikes, what worked, what didn't work, opinions, notes, all that jazz on every single one of these books. So if you want more in-depth detail than what you're going to get from this, go check out that playlist. It will also be linked down below. But if you just want a quick little synopsis, find the book you want, and you can hop to the timestamp. But how about we break this month down by stats first? So the total completed books for this month was 13. I had a total of 6 physical books, 5 audiobooks, and 2 ebooks. My total read page count of the ebooks and physical books was 2,250 pages. And my total listening time for my audiobooks was 28 hours and 56 minutes. And all of these books, all the completed books, giving me an average rating of a 3.38 for the month of October. Not super high. I'm kind of disappointed by that. I thought I had a better reading month. I didn't have any 5 stars this month. But I thought because I had so many 4s that maybe it would have bumped it up a little bit higher, but it just didn't. So, yeah. But those are my stats, guys. So now let's get into what I read. And as always, I have my notes over here in the corner. So if you see me looking over here, that's just me looking at my notes. So, and this is in no particular order. These are just the order that I have them in my notes. So the first book I have to talk about is Predestined-Abbi Glines. And it looks like this. I gave this 4 stars. It is the second installment to the Existence series. It was an audiobook done by Ashley Litz. It shows triggers for death and has minor sexual content in it. As this is a direct sequel to Existence, it's really hard to talk about the plot, but what I can tell you is it picks up right where Existence left off. I mean, they're walking into the school. This book starts with them walking into the school. I mean, it picks right up. And the, this storyline, this plot of this book was really well done. It was one of the points that I actually thought worked really well in this book, was the main plot installment, and it was perfect for the spooky month. It was about something I'm not used to dealing with, and it worked really, really well for me. I had zero issue with the plot point along with the continuity of this book. Both elements worked really, really well in this book. However, there were some things that didn't work in the book. The main one that I want to point out was definitely the feelings toward Leif. Leif was one of the members of the love triangle from the Existence series with Pagan and, Pagan and Dank. Dank is death, and he has saved Pagan from her assigned death because he's fallen in love with her, and Leif was her kind of like high school boyfriend during her senior year. And in the second installment, we find out that there is more to Leif than what we actually know. And when you learn what Leif's backstory really is, I felt that Abby's writing of the feelings towards Leif from Pagan and Dank just really wasn't warranted. I felt like Leif was kind of put between a rock and a hard place, and he was just trying to do what he thought was right. And he really didn't deserve the backlash that he got, really at all. So I felt for Leif, even though he was our antagonist in the story for this installment. I did feel for him. Now, the interesting thing about this installment is it does have an epilogue. And if you read the epilogue gives you the twist for the third installment, which I did read this month, and we'll get to talking about that later. But if you don't read the epilogue, this one wraps up with a nice little HEA, and it's really sweet. And I had a good time with this. However, there was a 0 spice rating. I mean, we had a puff. That was pretty much it. Very, very mild on the steam. The next book I have to talk about is Liz Mattis's Huddle Up. Looks like this. This is the third installment to the fantasy football series, an audiobook done by Christine Padavon. Still didn't like her even in this installment. Not a fan of her as a narrator. Not a fan. This is a second chance romance with a forced proximity trope. There's a surprise child, and there's some graphic sexual scenes with some graphic language. We follow Billy and Angel in this installment, who were a one-time couple, but nobody wanted them together, so outside forces kind of forced them apart. But before Angel finally broke it off with Billy, they gave one more night of like hot, passionate, steamy, throw around sex, and she ends up pregnant. Now, however, she does not tell Billy. She has her dad tell Billy. And Billy turns out that doesn't really give a shit. So Billy goes off to college, becomes an NFL pro player, and Angel sacrifices her dream of being a pro pool player and works for her dad. And then when her dad dies and leaves a mountain of debt, she's stuck between a rock and a hard place as well. So she files for child support. And this is actually where Billy learns about his daughter. He has 0 idea because Angel's dad didn't actually tell him at the fuck all. Shocker? No. So when Billy comes back to confront Angel, this is where our story really starts to kick off, and we have this second chance romance. This was probably my favorite installment of this series. I gave this one 3 stars while all the other ones got 2 up to this point. And what worked, Gabby, the daughter, was hilarious. She says the cutest things, but she doesn't say things that are too mature for her age. So Angel has nowhere to go because they're losing their home. And so Billy offers them to move in, and Angel takes it. And so Gabby is about to go to bed, and she's like, "Mommy, kiss this little pink elephant goodnight." And she says, "Okay." And she learns that Billy is her dad. And she says, "Daddy, kiss so-and-so to good night. Now you kiss Mommy to go to night." And they are still trying to figure out where they are within this relationship with Gabby. So I thought it was really cute that Gabby just kind of called them on their shit without even realizing that she was calling them on their shit. Thought it was a great idea. What also really worked was Billy. He demanded answers. And I really like that because when he comes into the story, not knowing anything about Gabby, Angel yells at him and says, "So you're telling me my father lied to me when you said that I was a whore and it wasn't yours?" And he's like, "Yeah. And here's another question. Why didn't you tell me? Why did I have to hear it years later? And why did you trust your dad to deal with this? Why didn't you come tell me? This was our deal. Why didn't you talk to me?" And he demanded the answers from her. And I really appreciated that because for as short as this book was, I was not expecting to see that, and I did, and I really, really liked it. What didn't work in this book was Angel's worries. She was worried about what a relationship with Billy in front of Gabby would do to Gabby, but she wasn't worried about moving her daughter into a stranger's house and calling him daddy. She wasn't worried about that. That was cool. We'll do that. But kissing you in front of her, that's an issue. And I just didn't really buy that. I didn't buy that one at all. So that was a little for me. The spice rating for this book, I gave it 3 chili peppers. We had very graphic language, but we did have this one scene of really clear consent that I really, really enjoyed, and you don't normally see it all the time. So Billy and Angel are starting to get a little physical, and Billy flat out stops and says, I need you to tell me you want this. I need you to tell me yes, because if you don't, I will walk in this room, go take a fucking cold shower, and it will be done. Because they're still trying to figure out where they are with each other. And Angel says, yes, I want this. So I love the fact that the male stopped in the heat of the moment and requested consent so there wouldn't be any issues later on down the road. I thought that was fantastic, and I really appreciated that scene was in there. I really, really enjoyed that one about this installment. Once I completed that, I did complete a carryover from September, which was this guy. This is The Gray Bastards by Jonathan French. This is the first installment in the Lotland series. We have graphic language, graphic sexual situations, and graphic gang violence. This is essentially Sons of Anarchy on orcs, or on hogs with orcs. It is awesome and cool and badass all in its same, and all in one big foul soup. I freaking had a great time with this. Had a fantastic time with this. We follow Jackal and some of his comrades, Fetch and Oates, and Jackal believes that the leader of their hoof, which is kind of like what they call like their little gang, they call it a hoof, he's losing it. He's not as strong as he was, and he's just, it's time for him to step down. And the leader, whose name is Claymaster, thinks Jackal's a hothead, isn't ready, he's too young. But an event happens at the very beginning of the book that Fetch, our only female member of the hoof, instigates. She shoots a blue blood and kills him. And a blue blood essentially is a human in this world. And they call their cleanup crew, and the cleanup crew comes, takes the body, but the horse that is considered part of the payment that the human was riding on somehow finds its way back to its camp, which starts this big, huge circular event of all these other events happening. And it is just a ride from that point on. It is crazy, it is insane. If you are a fan of Sons of Anarchy, you will see all of the direct nods in this book, which is something that actually worked in this book really, really well. I'm not a fan of people ripping shit off, but I don't believe this was ripping off. It was so obvious, the nods were, that I thought at the beginning, I'm like, this is like straight Sons of Anarchy with orcs. Like, that's all it is. But then at some point, it stops following the Sons of Anarchy kind of timeline and makes it its own. And it's fucking awesome. Because what Jonathan French was doing was he was taking these Sons of Anarchy moments that, if you're a fan of the show, you could see, you clear as day know. And behind the scenes, he was setting up this awesome, badass story that when the Sons of Anarchy lens was removed or veil was removed, you had no idea that he had set up all this shit going down, and you're like, what the fuck? Holy crap, this is awesome. I was super, super excited about this. I had a great, great fucking time with this. What worked? The SOA tie-ins, the world building, the Lotlands, this destitute, barren wasteland is so fucking cool, and the magic system created within it is, I hope in future installments that gets more fleshed out, because it is awesome. It's so fucking cool. This has a lot of female badass representations. Fetch, badass. Hated that bitch in the beginning of the book. Hated her. Thought she was annoying. Did not like what she did, but by the end I was like, I want her as my best friend. I love her. Love her. And a lot of the other female characters, any female character that wasn't a whore, because there are whores in this book, they were badasses. They were awesome. And I thought that was really, really cool that French really incorporated that. But not to say that there weren't some whorish men that were kind of useless too. So he did a very equal balance of male badasses and female badasses to useless females and useless males in this book. It was very equally proportioned, and I really, really enjoyed that. And the reveals in this book, I did not see coming, because I was looking at the Sons of Anarchy trail. I was following it. I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And none of that happened, because the Sons of Anarchy was nothing but a smokescreen. And it was so fucking cool the way that it was done. Had a great time with this. The only thing that really didn't work in this book for me was, and this might just be me, when I put this book down, it was very hard for me to go back and pick it up. When I was in it, I was engrossed. I was all encompassing. I was feeling it, but as soon as I put the book down, I don't know if I put the book down at the wrong times or it just didn't have the staying power, because this is a very high fantasy, action-packed, dark, not really multi-POV, there's not multiple POVs, multi-pieces, a lot of moving pieces, fantasy book. And sometimes I just have to be in the mood for it, and maybe I wasn't in the mood when I was reading this, so when I put it down, it was very hard for me to pick it back up. I just want to make that aware to you guys, but other than that, I had a great fucking time. This was a great start to this series. I'm really looking forward to continuing with the series. I gave this book a 4-star, and we do actually have some sex in this, and it was not, the sex scene was necessary because the tension was there, but the book could have been just as fantastic without the sex scene. The sex scene just kind of helped propel it a little bit, and it made it a little bit cooler. So I would say this was like a 2 chili pepper sex scene, just for the actual graphiness of the sex scene itself. But it was pretty dope. Not gonna lie. Had a good time with it. Had a great time with it, actually. So really look forward to picking up the rest of that series. The next and final installment to this series I completed was Quarterback Sneak by Liz Mattis. This is the final installment to the fantasy football romance series. This is, again, another audiobook done by Christine Padavon. This sealed the deal. I do not like this person as a narrator. I would have had a better time with all 4 of these installments had I physically read them. I really, really believe that. So that's my opinion. Read these books. Don't listen to the audiobooks. I think you'll enjoy it more if you physically read them. This one, however, is a hate to love with a fake arranged marriage. Yes, you heard me correctly. A fake arranged marriage. And we also show triggers for recovering of alcoholism. And this one I only gave 2 stars. So Huddle Up was the only one that got anything higher than a 2 for me in the series. But this series we follow Hayden, who is a media-crazed party girl from the New York Cougars, who's the daughter of the New York Cougars, and Liam McQueen, who is the recovering playboy alcoholic quarterback of the New York Cougars. Hayden goes to a bar with some of her friends, and she is currently on parole, so she's not allowed to be around firearms, and firearms are brought into play at this bar, where Liam is actually being a DD for some of his other teammates. And Liam sees Hayden, knows kind of her backstory because she's in the paparazzi's eye. He tries to do the stand-up thing and take her out of the situation so she doesn't get in trouble. So he takes her out of the bar so nothing happens to her. Instead of taking her home where it's swarming with paparazzi, they go back to his place. Nobody gives a shit about Liam because he's this born-again Christian. You know, he's not drama-filled anymore. He's just the born-again guy who, you know, is trying to get a second chance, and he's not tabloid material right now. So his house has 0 paparazzi. It's a safe space. They go, they spend the night in separate rooms. They don't do anything, except Hayden, being the paparazzi darling that she is, can't let a sleeping dog lie. So she posts a picture on her Instagram of her in Liam McQueen's bathroom saying, "Had a great night with Sexy over here," and tags his name. Liam freaks out, but he doesn't go crazy. He's just like, okay, maybe nobody will really notice it. Next day at practice, his boss, who is Liam's dad, calls him in the office, and he thinks he's going to get sacked. Nope, that is not what happens. That is not what happens at all. It is found out that Hayden was at that bar where the firearm was, and the police want to take her in because she has violated her probation. So her dad has smoozed the judge over to convince him that she was out celebrating her engagement to Liam McQueen. And Liam's like, "I'm sorry, what?" And so the owner says, "Well, you're going to have to act like you're engaged to my daughter." And he's like, "I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. Absolutely fucking not." And yeah, well, he did. because he had to. He also thought Hayden would throw a fit and put her foot down and prevent it, but when Hayden did that, Daddy said, no, you're dealing with this, and this is how it's going to happen. So now they have a fake engagement, and they have to have a fake engagement party for their family, but the fake engagement party turns out to be their wedding, and neither of them know about it. So, hence, fake arranged marriage. And this thing is just, this thing was probably the most far-fetched of the four for me. It was a little hard to handle. However, I really liked Liam's character in this book. I thought he was respectful, he was protective, he was dominant, but he wasn't so in your face that he was an alpha hole. I really did enjoy him as a character. What didn't work, the plot. This thing was just too far-fetched for me. The father was horrible. He just treated his daughter like a piece of fucking meat and cattle, and I was just like, you could get fucked. I don't like you. And the judge who knew this whole thing was a fucking ruse was like, I like football so much, so I'm gonna let it slide. I'm just gonna tear your probation paperwork up. It's like, no, you would fucking lose your license. Really? No. This one was just way too far-fetched for me. Way too far-fetched for me to really actually enjoy it. As much as I sort of enjoyed the other ones. The spice rating on this one, I gave a 2.5 chili peppers. There was no cringy dialogue in this one or Huddle Up, so that got eradicated. Thank God. And it did have insta-lust, but it wasn't so bad that it was like, really? It was insta-lust that they were both mutually attracted to each other, but they knew they didn't like each other. If they actually had liked each other and tolerated each other, then it might have been super insta-lust, but because they had this hate component, they at least acknowledged, yeah, he's a good-looking guy. Yeah, she's pretty fucking fine. But I hate you. So, no, never gonna happen. So I like the fact that insta-lust was kind of put there, but then taken away because of the whole hate to love relationship. But we do have an HEA in this as well. There's an HEA in all of the series installments. And I'm glad to say the series is done. I completed it. Because it is a completed series, if you'd like to see a full series review of it, just let me know down below. I'd be glad to do a whole kit and caboodle of all four of them. Because there was some good points in each book. They are not bad. They just are better if you physically read them, for sure. The next book I completed was Ceaseless by Abbi Glines, and it looks like this. This is the final installment to the Existence trilogy, which I read Existence last month, and I read the last two this month. And this, again, was an audiobook done by Ashley Litz. We have a love triangle, and this is a kind of second chance romance. Now, as I said earlier, if you don't read the epilogue in Predestined, you could end the series with just those two. You could have that duology. But if you read the epilogue, that's what gives you the plot point to this story. And the epilogue is relayed back into this, so you do have that. But that's the only info dump section that Abbi Glines does in this book. Other than that, every little Easter egg, everything you need to know, she gradually brings back into the forefront throughout the series of the story as well. So I really enjoyed that she did that. But essentially for this storyline, something has happened and Pagan has lost all of her memories. So she doesn't remember Dank at all, even from the first book. So now in this story, we get to see Dank and Pagan fall in love with each other all over again, but there is a love triangle component thrown in because her first boyfriend prior to Existence, her high school boyfriend prior to the Existence book taking place, is back in the picture because they're in college. So now Dank has competition with that guy, and his name is Jay. I thought this book had a lot. I gave this thing 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one, even though I had to do another love triangle again. But I got to see G, the character G, who is in all 3 installments. I got to see her really come to fruition in this one, and I just fucking loved it. I thought it was great. I love her. She was awesome. But what didn't work for me the most is the love triangle. So you have Dank and Pagan, and you know as the reader that they belong together. But then you have this other guy coming in, and I'm thinking, okay, you have to make him like super amazing to override Dank. Abbi Glines really didn't give him any redeeming characteristics. Like, I don't understand how this character even stood a chance in this love triangle at the fuck all. Like, he's a douche. Straight up fucking douchebag. He hits on literally everything. Like, I'm still trying to figure out how they dated in high school, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I know people change from high school, but you don't change that fucking much in a year. You don't. And nothing severely happened to him to make him change to that severity if you could. So I didn't see where there was even a comparison at all. Like, I went into this book knowing Dank was it. As I was reading this book, I kept knowing Dank was it. Jay gave me nothing redeemable to actually warrant it. I mean, even Pagan says multiple times in the book, he kind of bores me. He does. I'm just like, okay, so you made your choice. Why are we still continuing with this? So that was fun. And even this being the third installment, this thing still had twists. I had a half hour left on this audiobook, and a twist got thrown in, and I'm like, you gotta fucking be kidding me. What? Oh my God. It resolves, but damn, I could not handle it. I was like, no, I cannot. But the thing I really enjoyed about this book is we got our sex scene. Yay, it happened. And it was sweet. It was a very, very well done fade to black. I gave it a 1.5 on the chili pepper scale. We got some mild graphic language. We got some very flirtatious Pagan and Dank. Pagan was being a lot more forward with Dank in this installment than she was in the previous two, and I just freaking loved it. I loved her jokes. There's one scene where they're kind of giving each other shit, and he said that he could take her, and she's like, you know what? Don't worry about my size. Don't let my size underestimate. I could take you. And Dank just deadpan looks at her and says, if you're going to throw any part of your body onto mine, I'm not going to stop you. And it dawns on her what she's wearing and what she just said, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna be quiet now. And I just busted up laughing because I've done that. I thought it was hilarious. I loved this more flirtatious, more forward, more kind of propositioning side that we got to see of Pagan in this book compared to the others. I just had a great time with it. And that fade to black scene was super sweet. Slow burn. You need to read all 3 installments to really enjoy that scene, but it was totally worth it. For sure. The next book I read was an ARC, and that was Not Yours to Keep by Ella Jacobs, and it looks like this. I have a full book review for this, so I'll link it up here in the corner over here for you, and down below as well, so you can go check that out. This is a debut novel from Ella Jacobs. I met her through TikTok, and she requested me to review her book, and I had a great time with this, the first installment in a trilogy. It follows a couple in a very dominant submissive relationship where the dom shares his submissive with another dom, and you see a very good comparison of what a good dom does versus what a bad dom does. And I'm not saying like the character of Grigory, who is kind of like our bad dom in this book, is a bad dom. It's just he lacks the aftercare element. He doesn't understand how crucial that is. So you see this really, really clearly displayed. So definitely go check out that review. Again, it'll be linked down below, and it's up here in the card in the corner. I had a great time with this. I gave it 4 stars, and I plan on continuing with the rest of the series when it comes out. The next book I completed was this guy. This is Naughty Wolf by Aidy Award, and I gave this 3 stars. This is the second installment in the Alpha Wolves Want Curves 2 series, which I listened to the first book, Dirty Wolf, on audiobook, and I detested it. I hated the audiobook. Hated it. I hated the narrator. Couldn't stand it. But I wanted to give this author a second chance because she writes primarily plus-size heroines, and I thought that was really, really cool. And I'm so glad I fucking did because I had a great time with this. This is a paranormal romance, and it's also a shifter romance. We follow Costa, who's the youngest son of the deceased alpha of the Troika clan, and his brother Maxim has taken over as alpha of his clan. And we also follow Helly, I think that's how you say her name, and her sister was kidnapped at the end of the first book, Dirty Wolf. And so they hook up originally in the first book. That's when their relationship starts, but we get to see it come to fruition really in this one. And she's constantly wanting Costa to help her try to go find her sister. Costa's trying to keep her safe and protected. And they have this continuously on again, off again relationship because of it. Well, Costa is still the mindset that you don't mate humans, which Maxim, the new alpha of his clan, has basically thrown that law out the fucking window from the first book. So this kind of feeling of animosity towards his brother gets out to the other clans, and so he's propositioned to try to overthrow the Troika clan. But Costa is very, very loyal, so he takes it upon himself to use this moment as to take out the opposing clans from within. So he goes to Helly's home to break up with her, to make it look like that he's completely done, because he doesn't want anybody having any idea that he's doing this, because werewolves can smell lies. So he has to make this super believable. Helly's like, haha, fuck you, I'm not doing this. You're not breaking up with me. It's not happening. Not happening. They have a really, really intense oral sex scene at that moment, and it's really fucking good. It's really good, people. It's awesome. I really enjoyed it a lot. Definitely one for the books. But he leaves, and Helly is hell-bent, and she's just like, no, this is not happening. So she decides to go after him and try to convince him one more time to help her find her sister. And in the process of doing this, she gets kidnapped and brought to this rival clan's headquarters where Costa is now. And so now they're forced to be together, super highly attracted to each other, but he can't act like he fucking knows her or gives a shit about her. And this is where their romance really takes off and explodes from there. What worked physically reading Aidy Award. Had a much better time physically reading her. I read this in one sitting. It read super fast. Had a great time with it. The continuity from the previous installment picks up right where it left off. Fantastic. Lots of political maneuvering in this. There is a bigger plot point through this series other than just each individual plot to the story, and we get to see more of that build up in this as well. I thought it was fantastic. The sex scenes in this book were awesome. The overuse of the dirty talk in Dirty Wolf has been, you know, relaxed, and what was used, what was said was perfect. It was on point. I just had a great fucking time with it. And the super cheesy porn star moments from the first installment, not located in this at all. Loved it. Fantastic. The main thing that didn't work for me in this book, though, was the big reveal. The reveal itself is not what didn't work. It's how the reveal is. Because the reveal is based off of this kind of coded language that is between the female members of these clans. And you get a brief idea of how it is broken down, but it's not really fleshed out very well. So it's still kind of muddled. So I'm hoping later on installments, it'll get more cleared out and I can understand a little better, because I feel like that big climactic scene would have had more of a punch if I really understood this coded system on how they got there. So that was the only thing that really irritated me the most about this book. We have a 3 on the chili pepper scale. Graphic language, graphic content. This book heavily focuses on the female orgasm. Costa is a very, very giving alpha. Let me tell you. Very, very giving. There's one scene, the marking scene, because eventually Costa's like, fuck this. She's mine. No one else can have her. That scene was fucking fire. Oh my God, I needed a moment after that scene. I did. I needed a moment, and it was so fucking good. Oh my God, guys. It was, I loved the fluidity that it was written in. Like, I knew every single position. I knew where her legs were. I knew where her arms were. I knew where his arms were. I knew where his mouth was. I knew where everything was, and I could see it. I could feel it. Oh God, it was It was awesome. It was so, so good. And he did something that was really, really cool. He had to do sound control because she got too fucking loud. It was a great fucking scene. Awesome. Definitely one for the bank on that one. Definitely. Had a good time with that one. The next book I completed was Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shea Earnshaw. I buddy read this with Becky over at BeckX and Issa over at Fun Fantasy Books. I'll link both their channels down below. This is a standalone young adult, and this was also my Red Witch and Bitchin' Book Club book of the month. And we all seemed to have a really good time with it. All my book club members really enjoyed it. This is like the continuation of Nightmare Before Christmas. Sally and Jack are married, and Sally's now the pumpkin queen, but she doesn't really know how to be queen. She's not comfortable with it because she's always been kind of in the shadows. And an event happens that she causes by accident, and only she can fix it. And so this whole story is her going through all of these different worlds and meeting these different characters to try to solve the problem that she herself caused. I had such a good time with this. I love the tie-ins for the original story. This thing, Shea Earnshaw does a lot of descriptive work, definitely in the beginning, to really tie it back to Nightmare Before Christmas, and she does an excellent job of it. I really enjoyed that. I had zero issue with it, because if you've never read Nightmare Before Christmas or seen it, all of that descriptive work really helps out. It will help you out understand what has happened prior. If you have seen it, it's just reminding you and tying the story in so you know that this is super cohesive, and I really enjoyed it. I love the new worlds and new characters we met. Definitely could see maybe a series coming about this because we got to meet some new people and there was some kind of little Easter eggs thrown in there. So I'm really hoping there might be future installments. I have no idea, but that would be super dope. Not gonna lie, that would be awesome. And Sally gets her own backstory. We find out really how Sally came to be, and what we thought we knew isn't what we know. And when we find out how she got into Halloween Town and how Jack finds out she got into Halloween Town, we see a whole nother side of Jack, and I'm like, I'm in love with Jack all over again. Fucking right. Yes. Loved it. Had a great fucking time with this book. This was awesome. There is no steam in this. It is YA. So we do have, and it is Disney, so we do have to have, you know, very clean lines. But the only thing I really found that didn't work was the ending. Because it is Disney and because it is YA, it couldn't go as dark as I wanted it to go. Like, it was gonna go there, I was ready, and then they had to pull back the reins, and that just kind of sucked. But I understand the reason for it. So, but I still had a great time with this book. It definitely did not ruin Nightmare Before Christmas. It only made me fall in love with it all over again. So if you are a lover of Night Before Christmas and you're worried that this might tarnish it, might ruin it, it won't. It will just give you more layers to this already beloved story, and it's a good time. I definitely recommend this one. This is great. All right. The next book I have to talk about is Resurrection by Siobhan Davis, and it looks like this. This is the first installment to the Sainthood Boys of Lowell High series. This is an audiobook done by Ramona Masters and Wen Ross. I have a box set, so I got all of the series installments on Audible. Ramona Masters is the only one that narrates this installment. Wen Ross does not come in until future installments, so I want to make that aware to you guys. This is a reverse harem, or why choose. We have dubious consent. It's also bully romance, hate to love. We do have some edge play with some gunplay and torture, sexual assault, underage sexual actions, and there is an age gap at one point in time in this story. This thing has all the fucking triggers. This thing is dark. This thing is twisty. It's out there. We follow Harlow, and Harlow, in a depressed revenge moment, hooks up with the 4 members of the Junior Sainthood, Saint, Galen, Theo, and Kaz. And this group sex scene is actually filmed and then released to the internet, where she is now forced to leave her parochial school and been forced to go to the local public high school, where the Junior Saints now attend. And because of this video, they have pretty much just claimed her, that she's theirs. And that's not something you want from these boys, because this world that Siobhan Davis has created is gang riddled. There are multiple gangs, there's drug violence, there's gun violence, and these gangs are constantly fighting for turf. And the Sainthood is the biggest. They are a nationally wide gang organization with ties all over the United States, and Saint happens to be the son of the head president, Sinner. And Sinner used to date Harlow's mother before Harlow's mother married her father. And when her father passes away, Harlow's mother goes back to Sinner, and now Sinner and Harlow's mother are engaged, bringing Saint and all of his posse of boys into the house. So now, not only does she have to go to school with these boys, she now lives with them. So a lot of forced proximity, making for a lot of dramatic encounters, a lot of intense ones. There is so much going on in this story. There's multiple plot points. Harlow's got a plot point, and she's got some subterfuge going on. The Saints, the junior Saints, have their own subterfuge going on. The head Saints, they have their own stuff. There are so many secrets, layers and layers and layers and layers of secrets. It is intense. It's something you actually have to pay attention to, or you will get lost. You will get lost in this book. A lot. But the multiple plot points keep you engaged. They keep you trying to figure out, like, who's with who, who's screwing over who. It keeps you very much engaged. So it is something that works well with the book. And this one does have a cliffhanger ending, which is dope as fuck. This cliffhanger was awesome. I did not see it coming, but when I got revealed, I was not surprised who was involved. So it's kind of got that duo thing going on, and I really enjoyed that. And I like the male heroes. I like Saint, Galen, Kaz, and Theo. In this installment, you only get some backstories from Saint, and Kaz is kind of like the fun-loving one. He doesn't really have any history with Harlow, but you know there's stories with Theo and Galen, and they're a lot darker than Saint's story with Harlow. And in this installment, you don't get them, but because I am reading currently at the moment, Resurrection, which is the sequel to this one, you do find out their backstories. So I can tell you that. You will find those out. And it kind of explains their demeanor as well as it can. What didn't work, though, for me in this book, I really didn't like Harlow. I don't really like the heroine. She, in this installment, is constantly talking about how big of a badass she is and how much she can take and how she's always one step ahead of the guys, and she's never ahead of the guys. You learn very early on that she's not in charge at the fuck all. So stop. Like, I wanted her to stop talking most of the time because I'm like, just shut the fuck up, open your eyes, you will see what you need to do to get the fuck out. But she never does. And then when the big twist happens, I'm like, haha, joke's on you, bitch. Maybe you should have shut the fuck up. Like, she's annoying to me. And but in this installment, she does have some comedic points and some comedic moments, which are verbally slamming the guys, which I thought was really kind of cool. I did enjoy those moments for her, but majority of her character, I just don't like her very much. My main thought for this was it felt very similar to Silver Swan, which was published in 2017. It felt like kind of a sad version of the Silver Swan. At least this installment does. So I just want to kind of point that out. Amo Jones does really well with her reveals. And I feel like Siobhan Davis was trying to do that, and it just wasn't there. I think she has the chops to get there, now that I've read a little bit more, but she's not there in this book. She's just not there. So it kind of, the reveals and the layering of all these secrets, it's not as smooth as it could have been. It's very choppy, which kind of lends to the chaos of this book, but at the same time, it's also very aggravating because you have to actively try to put these pieces together, because the reveals, when they were revealed, they're not as clear cut as they should have been if the layering had been a lot smoother. I did give this, however, a 4.75 on the chili pepper scale because this thing was hot as fuck. There was equal sex to plot points in this book, so it is parallel going the entire way through, which I thought was great. We have edge play with an emphasis on gunplay, a lot of hate sex, lot of hate sex. Oh my god, all the hate sex, all of it. Most of the sex scenes in this book are hate fucking, which if you like that, it is all over the place. It's fantastic. It's great. And I love Saint's possessiveness. Their main hookup scene afterwards, when she has all the marks and everything, and she's just wearing them proudly, and he's just like shining like a fucking, the cat who got the cream, just like, man, I fucking love that. I love that he's proud of his work and she's rocking it. I thought that was great. I had a really, really good time with that. And also, I have not read a lot of reverse harems, but the reverse harems I have read, a lot of them don't have a full group scene. This one has a full group scene. You have a fivesome, and that shit is hot as fuck. It is well written. I know where everybody's legs and arms and who's with who and who's licking and who's touching and who's fondling. I know where everything is. And I loved it. And I didn't have to mark it or diagram it out. I just could keep it in my head. So she did a really good job with that group scene, for sure. The next book I completed was this guy, In Peace Lies Havoc by Amo Jones, which also taught me a very valuable lesson this month. Do not read 2 reverse harems at the same fucking time, because that shit gets confusing as fuck. This was my Smut Club selection of the month. It is the first installment to the Midnight Mayhem series. We have rape, dubious consent, forced proximity, hate to love, bully romance, partial reverse harem, and an HEA cliffhanger with an epilogue for the continuation of the series. So, a lot of shit in this book too, but this is a Mo Jones. I knew that going in, that this thing was crazy as fuck, and it was. I gave this fucker 4 stars. I had a great time with this. Oh, if I didn't say, I gave Resurrection 3 stars, if I didn't say that. But yeah, back to this one. 4 stars. We follow Dove Hendry. She's kidnapped and forced to perform in the Midnight Mayhem, which is like an X-rated circus sort of thing. It sounds dope as fuck, and I kind of want to go. And she's forced to be part of the Brother of Kisnet's show, where Kingston, Keaton, Kyron, and Killian psychologically, emotionally, and sexually torture her and have their fun with her. Kingston is our main hero in this. He is the main focus of the romance, and we know there is chemistry between them. There's insta chemistry, but you know that there's back chemistry because the way Mo Jones writes the story. You know there's more to these two, but we just don't know what, because Mo Jones has this awesome way of layering all of these secrets and plot points, and then at the very end, it all just explodes, and you're like, wow, the fuck did you do that? Hold on, what? She did an amazing job with it. Again, that was one of the things that worked in this book, was her revelations, her plot twists, her timing of reveals. Just I fucking love a Mo Jones. This is my second experience with a Mo Jones, and I had just as good time with this one as I did Silver Swan. However, I think I like Silver Swan better than this one. But this was fantastic. I do plan on continuing with the rest of the series for sure. Kingston's character arc was badass. I had a great time with his character arc, so that was definitely something that worked well with me in this book, for sure. And also the bigger plot story. You definitely see the building blocks for it, but again, it's a Mo Jones, so it's clear confusion. You clearly know there's something going on, and you clearly know you're supposed to be confused about it, so you're okay with it, because it's that fucking intriguing that you want to keep going. What didn't work? This partial reverse harem element, I just thought was kind of annoying. It's like, are you gonna hook up with all of them? Are you not? Because there are some sexualized scenes with other members of the group, but the main guy is Kingston, so it's kind of like, she was kind of flip-flopping back and forth, and like, what am I gonna do with it? So that got kind of annoying after a while. And I firmly believe that you should probably read the Elite Kings Club series before reading this one and some of her standalones, because there are some Easter eggs to that series and one of her standalones, Manic, in particular, in this book. I do not know, I do not believe they have been spoiled, because nothing that was brought up seems spoilery to me, but I've only read one installment of the Elite Kings Club series, and I have never read Manic. So I would be leery of picking this up if this is your very first Mo Jones. I would pick up some more Mo Jones prior to this one, because you might be spoiled for her previous works. Biggest problem with this book, though, is every single male seems to have a name that starts with K. I have Kingston, Killian, Kyron, Keaton, Cohen, Klaus, and there's like 4 others that I just didn't even mention. Like, they all have K names, and it gets really, really fucking confusing, because she only has major plot points with certain characters, and so when a random one comes in, I'm like, wait a minute, which one are you again? Are you the one that that got really, really fucking confusing. So that was irritating as fuck, and I don't know if that's going to be a plot point, or if it was just a creative choice on her behalf that she just really had a thing for K names at the time of writing this book. I don't know. We got a 4 chili peppers on the spice scale, which was awesome. Loved it. Very graphic language, many sexualized situations. We do have trigger for sexual assault. We do show some anal sex in this as well, which is a pretty dope fucking scene. Not gonna lie, it's against a wall. Haven't seen it like that before, so that was really cool. And we have some blood transference and, again, more hate sex. The week I read this book, I also listened to Resurrection, and so I had like all the hate sex going on that week. It was intense. The next book I completed was King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. I gave this 4 stars. This is the first installment to the Adrian Isilod series. graphic content and language. We do have triggers for body horror, especially with stuff with eyes and burning. So if you are squeamish, just be warned about that. And we do have kind of like a fated mate trope going on. We follow Isola de Lara and Adrian Alexander Vleses. Adrian is the king of blood, and he chooses to marry Isolde to end a year-long war. Isolde is voluntarily marrying this man to save her kingdom because he is going to take over her kingdom anyway. But if she marries him, he is promised to spare all of her people. So she sacrifices herself and marries him. But he already wants to marry her because as soon as he sees her, he knows that she's it. Because there is other stuff going on. It's not just a political matchup, this marriage. No, there is history behind it. And as we go through the story, you start to learn that. And there are so many twists and turns in this book. A lot of inner dialogue on behalf of Isolde, because as she has sacrificed herself for people, she thinks she's doing the right thing. Her people start to turn on her and saying that she's one of them now. She favors them. And it's like, I did this. I married this monster to save you, and you're going to turn on me. But the vampiric people who she has been raised her entire life to fear and think that they're horrible and bloodthirsty and just monsters, they're the kindest, nicest people to her and embrace her wholeheartedly. And it's just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? It's a total mindfuck for her. Total mindfuck. What worked? The original plot. I thought this plot was great. Because Isolde, when she agrees to the wedding, she's entrusted by her father to try to assassinate Adrian, and she tries, and Adrian's like, you try this shit again, I'm going to raise you as the undead. Fucking quit. So you learn very quickly that Adrian is kind of is a badass, and I like him. I like him a lot. I didn't the entirety of this book, but I liked him by the end of the book. And then the internal struggles with her, the way they're written, they are so on point. I loved it. The chemistry between Isolde and Adrian is there. And again, like I said, there's more to it. And as she's revealing this backstory, you start to get it more fleshed out, and it's awesome. What didn't work was for the climactic ending, the backstory needed to be more. You only get a little bit of it. And I feel like if you had more of Adrian's backstory and more of Isolde's backstory, that ending would have been a lot more punchier and a lot more in your face and a lot stronger. So I wasn't a fan of that, which was kind of disheartening because I know Scarlett St. Clair can do that. So I was kind of like, that's kind of sucky that didn't happen. And then I needed, like I said, I didn't always like Adrian because he did some shady shit. And I don't understand why. There's a lot of unanswered questions in this book about Adrian. Why he still does some of the shady shit that he does. I don't understand the purpose of this when he needs Isolde to trust him. Why he's putting himself in positions where she doesn't trust him and is losing trust in him. And he needs this to further this big reveal to happen. And then how Adrian knew Isolde was the one for this reveal. There's a big, huge twist ending to this. And Adrian knows that Isolde is it, but Isolde has no idea. And I want to know how he knew she was it. I want to know. Because there's no markings, there's no signs, nothing. And that was kind of what really... Because this thing walked in as a 3. Because it's Scarlett St. Clair. Like, that's how it walked in. And it pushed itself to a strong 4. If I would have gotten maybe that answer, I might have been able to bump it to a 5, but I didn't. That was one question I feel like should have fucking been answered. And maybe it will get answered in future installments. Maybe we'll get an Adrian perspective. I'm not quite for sure. But right now, I need to know that answer because it's that irritating that I don't fucking know. I gave this a 3 on the chili pepper scale for graphic language, blood play. I do want to make a point to say that if you have read Hades and Persephone, the sex scenes in Hades and Persephone are a lot stronger than this. If this is your first experience with Scarlett St. Clair, she gets a lot more graphic and a lot more intense, a lot spicier, a lot hotter in her other series than she does with this. The sex scene in this is fantastic. The sex in this is off the charts. It's great, but it is 10 times better in other series. So I want to make that aware for first timers with Scarlett or people who have already read Hades and Persephone and are thinking that this is going to be tenfold because it's fucking vampires. So The next book I completed was my TBR Jar Challenge book, and that was Vladimir by Julia May Jonas. This is a standalone, and my TBR Jar Challenge was to read a book that had green on the cover. We feature kidnapping, drugging, attempted suicide. It is read in past tense, but it is on page, alcohol, and depression. And this is a romantic literary fiction. This book is not what it seemed. I walked into this book thinking this was going to be this cool little teacher romance, kind of on the down low, you know, kind of secretive. It is not. It is not that. It is not. What it is a book with an unknown English narrator. We never get the narrator's name, as she struggles with her husband possibly being dismissed after coming out that he's had relations with other students, and this weird obsession that she has with this new English professor named Vladimir, who is considerably younger than her. And all the internal struggles in between there, with her aging, her open relationship with her husband, jealousy of youth and strong talent. This is just an internal struggle monologue book of this unnamed narrator. We touch on issues of aging and how it affects our desirability and attraction to others as well as ourselves, the perception of power in regards to attraction, the generational views of what was once permitted and is now prohibited, complacency in life, and when that really starts to happen and you stop wanting to push yourself further, drugs and addiction, morality and art. So many fucking topics hit on in this little itty bitty book. It is intense, but it's so well done that you don't feel like you're just getting these lists of issues. She interweaves all of these issues so well, and it's awesome. She does a really, really good job with this. And also, this author is not afraid to create a character that you don't fucking like. There is majority of time in this book, I did not like our narrator. Did not agree with half the shit that she was fucking doing. I mean, she roofies Vladimir. Roofies him. I was like, the fuck? What? What is going on right now? Like, he voluntarily went here with you. Why do you have to roofie him? And you see the internal struggles with that and some of her viewpoints and her mindset and beliefs on what she holds compared to what younger generations hold. It was really, really well done on an author creating a character that I didn't like, but I still wanted to continue reading and figure out what was happening because I had such a good time with this book. What didn't work, though, however, was, like, the ending of this book. All the shit happens. All the shit. It's a very slow build of all these internalized themes and struggles, and then at the very end, we get all this drama, intrigue, action, and it's like 3 chapters and it's fucking done. And you're like, well, that's all the shit. That's all of it. Well, okay. So if you're going into this thinking you're going to have this nice, like, up and down roller coaster, no, you're not. You're going to have this nice kind of like going like this, kind of like a arch, really, really, really like this, and then boom, book's done. So yeah, that kind of sucked because I don't like when books do that. I like the ups and downs throughout the book. I like that roller coaster. I don't like just a big up, down, I'm done. I don't want that. We do have some sex scenes in this, and I gave it a 1.5 on the chili pepper scale. There's a lot of sexualized fantasy in this book, more than actual sex, and the sex scene that we do have is very mechanical. There's really no finesse. There's no flowery language. It's this, and then this happened. I said, thank you, have a nice day. Like that, it's very, very mechanical. So just take that into consideration when you pick this book up. And the last book I read for the month as a fun little Halloween treat was this guy. This is Jack by Layla Fae. This is the first installment in the Monster Ever After series, novella series. It's straight smut, dude. It's straight smut. We've got a breeding kink in here. We got some fire and some jack-o'-lanterns. We got some monster sex. I mean, it's all the campy, monster-esque Halloween sex tricks you could possibly pull. We've got Susie reads some tarot cards that tell her if she wants to get laid, she has to cast a spell, and then Satan will lay her. And she casts a spell, and Jack is created. And he is this gorgeous, from the neck down, muscly, orange guy with a jack-o'-lantern for a head. He's got like an arm-length tongue and a forearm-sized dick that shoots out pumpkin spice cum. And 4 testicles, and it's ribbed for her pleasure in nice, great gradiating sizes. It is all the sex, like all of it. That's what this whole book is completely driven by sex. So the spice rating on this is a 5 chili peppers, but I mean, it's monster smut. So there's not enough chili peppers to put into it. But I did do a whole reading vlog of me reading this book, and I'll link it up here in the corner so you guys can actually see my reactions to the pumpkin spice that this book is. So it was just a nice little Halloween treat for me to do. It was a nice way to end the month on. But that's everything I completed, guys. Yeah, that was a lot. There's a lot. So let's get these drawings done and see what I can read for next month. So since I didn't complete my TBR, I'm going to draw my husband's jar. I'll go with this one. Start a series your husband helped you finish. I've had this one before. He needs to put some new ones in here. Really does. Okay. And then my jar, we're down to the nitty gritty. I only got 3 in here left because I had 13 in here originally. So holy crap, we're not going to happen. Here we go. Read a book with stars on the cover. All right. I will see you guys all soon with my November TBR. Stay safe and happy Halloween, guys.